Good morning, everyone. I'm here with Annabelle, and we are going to do a garden tour this morning and tie it in a little bit to how we're going to use the environment to shape our internal milieu, our health of our body as a whole, and how that affects energy production. But this is kind of a kickoff intro to our new YouTube page that we're going to put together as I start nursing school in the fall. Annabelle has a huge interest in science and health, and she has a lot of things that she would like to contribute, kind of being raised, immersed in this lifestyle environment from the very beginning. If you have been a part of this page since it started, you would have seen her in a lot of cooking videos and kind of a part of this, hearing me speak constantly about health and wellness, vitamins, minerals, all of the above, gut health. Do you have anything you want to say right off the bat, Annabelle?
Do you have anything?
Nothing yet. Okay, we're a little shy. All right, so we're going to do a garden tour, and the garden has been a huge part of my healing journey from the very beginning. After I had my first set of twins, actually even before that, I kind of dabbled in it, but never really fully understood the full breadth of impact that a garden can have on health and wellness. Obviously, we know that there's a great deal of nutrient density that can be obtained from picking vegetables or plants, etc., right from their readied state in the ground versus having them shipped in across the country, and then you've lost a lot of that nutrient density. But also, there's a whole nother aspect to it. We can think about grounding, walking barefoot in the grass. That has an impact on the vagus nerve, and then the vagus nerve has an impact on microglia, all of the above, right? We don't need to get too sciencey today. But also then thinking about how just the environment of having a garden or having any kind of natural space where you pick herbs or plants, a landscape, you can even have a landscape garden, how that impacts just the environment, the appreciation of food, and its impact on our health. So a lot of verbal speak there, but let's go through and just kind of see how I do it. I'm by no means some sort of master expert gardener, but I've had a little bit of success, so I'd like to share that with you today. And then hopefully it'll inspire you to add this into your world, and then include some of these things as a part of your healing journey or as a part of your health. So, Annabelle, you want to kind of point some things out? All right, so I'm going to turn this around. All right, so we do a lot of mixed pots as well as on raised beds. So this obviously is a blueberry bush. We had a lot of blueberry bushes in the back, but they got attacked by the birds. So
They
ate them all. And so we decided to put these in pots, and you need 2 blueberry bushes in order for it to work.
Birds are pretty, but they're greedy pig animals.
Yes, birds can eat a lot of things. So then I've got lettuce planted out in the garden. We're going to go out there in just a minute. But I used pots as well, because once that lettuce goes, as the heat increases in the spring here, then I will pull the lettuce and then put in some late summer vegetables. So in here, these will all be flowers, and these are actually baby versions of these guys. And I've never done a whole lot of flowers, but I thought we'd add that in this year because it's just, part of the natural beauty of the garden. And so I actually, in my disarray of putting together seeds, these came from Baker Creek, and they are a very unique flower, but I have no idea what they'll look like. So that's kind of exciting because I lost track of their origin. But
Can you plant the purple flowers?
There'll be some sort of purple flower. That's right. This is Italian oregano and all kinds of herbs. You can use them in tinctures. You can use it to infuse oils.
In smoothies?
Oregano is not awesome in smoothies, but you can use it in sauces. You can use it in soups. This is pink celery, and actually Madeline, my other daughter, and I came across that at Baker Creek, and this one is just a really cool plant. Once it starts growing up, I'll plant this in the garden once I pull the lettuce, and then I will plant the pink celery. Pink celery is actually, I've seen some popping up, but it's actually a perennial, and so is oregano. So they will be kind of nestled into corners of the garden because they will come back. There is purple or chocolate basil back here, and this is borage. borage is very high in naturally occurring vitamin C, but it's also very good for attracting butterflies and bees. The leaves are kind of fuzzy and a little off-putting in terms of like if you added them to a salad, but they have like this really cool peppery flavor to them. And they feel pokey. They do. So this is one of those naturally, let's see, how can we say it? This is something that you could use very much so to support the microbiome because of the naturally occurring fibers in it. But you just want to be mindful of if it's an irritant to you, just be careful with the borage. Okay, so more oregano and basil, more flowers down here. Really pretty basil coming up here, more flowers, some sunflowers in here. Let's see, a Christmas cactus, a palm, and there's another blueberry. So we're going to go down to the garden and show you that space now. And this has been a labor of love for the last 4 years. So it's been kind of developing over that time, right, Annabelle?
Yeah.
And she helped plant a lot of it. So we'll start over on one side. Let me turn it around so you can see. Now, fennel is another herb that you can use to. Yeah, it's good, isn't it? You can have it in salads. You can also add it, take the bulb out. I like to use it in salads. It's good in like sardine salad, tuna salad, chicken salad, what have you. And then the fennel will actually grow very, very large if you allow it. And fennel comes back year after year. So that's an easy perennial, super easy to grow. You can just pop it in the garden. This was grown from seeds this year. And so it will just naturally pop up. But what, Annabelle?
Is this fennel or is that just wheat?
That's all fennel.
It was wheat.
That's all fennel. Then tucked in here, we have some of the purple lettuce. This is from Baker Creek Seeds. They have really good, reliable seeds. You just directly seed it. This is Swiss chard here. And then a tomato that popped up from compost. And you can see it's already flowering. This kale here will go until about June, and then once the caterpillars start to attack it, it will then get replaced. It will get replaced by some of the herbs I showed you earlier, and then we'll probably tuck a little bit of okra in because this side of the garden gets a ton of sun. And so with the okra can go to 6 feet tall. The okra, again, I've talked about that in the past. It's a great mucilage, good for the gut, lots of naturally occurring fibers, but that will grow really tall and that will naturally shade the back end of the garden. There's some more of those cool looking flowers. I'm excited to see that pop out pretty soon. These guys will be eggplant in here. We have Casper eggplant as well as purple eggplant. This will be cucumbers that we will turn into Annabelle's favorite, pickles. And that's a great way to use your garden also is to create fermented foods. So then some pretty flowering vines, strawberry patch back here. That obviously comes back year after year and just keeps on growing and expanding. Lettuces, and these lettuces again will come pretty quickly. Will start to lose their lifespan pretty quickly. Once they start to tower up like this, then it starts to, get a little bit towards the end of its life cycle and it starts to get pretty bitter. So I like the green leaf lettuce when it's down low, like this bunch here. It's just, you can pick it straight from the garden and use it to support your health as a whole. Are you spreading more dandelions?
More seeds.
Okay, so then over here, this actually will be okra, and it's paired against, looks like it's another one of those flowers, but this okra here was about the size of this onion about a week ago. So you can see it grows super fast. This, again, will grow to about 6 feet tall and produce a lot of the Clemson spineless okra. So really, really pretty. Then more cucumbers, tomatoes are growing up. I'm trying something different this year with tomatoes in that I am going to clip the bottoms of the tomatoes here to allow the rainwater to come into the bottom of the okra or the tomato so that it can, so that the water in the tomato can help it to reach the soil, because these tend to grow very bushy And I usually do some heirloom tomatoes, some black cherries, as well as...
you can smell them.
Yes, you can smell them already, as well as some golden yellows. So beet greens are probably my favorite highlight of the garden. Beet greens and this Asian vegetable over here, it's kind of like a bok choy. It's very strong in the leaf texture itself. You really have to cook it down. In fact, most of these greens you want to cook down. You don't want to just eat them raw because the nutrients are not going to be as bioavailable. And like we talked about earlier, one of the blessings of having a garden is being able to have these bioavailable nutrients directly right in your backyard versus having them coming from across the country if you don't have a farmer's market close by. So with these greens in particular, like I said, yep, it's kind of free food. These are pretty tough. So when you go to cook them, you can either saute them or steam them, whatever works best for your body. But they always work better in terms of their available potassium, calcium, vitamin C, all of that if you cook them. And then if you add salt and a little bit of fat so you can absorb all of the nutrients in them. So this is I want to say it's pak choy. I don't have the name right in front of me. So now let's continue. All right, so back here, lots and lots of lettuce this year. I have been bringing it to coworkers, giving it to neighbors. More green leaf kale. This will go until about July. And then down here, we have cilantro. And you can see the cilantro has already started to bolt because of the heat. We had a few little strong heat spells. And I would love to know how to get my cilantro to avoid bolting. So if you are an expert on cilantro and want to share that information, I am all ears. Some sunflowers, and the sunflowers will be really pretty. I planted them in the back of the garden, so they will not cause any shade on these sun-loving vegetables and plants, and they'll just be a really pretty addition to the garden.
She is all about learning about plants. Yes.
And then here, these are dandelion greens. They're a different version of dandelion greens. These will not flower. These are they were called an Asian dandelion. You can see they're very thin. And they have a lot of, again, bioavailable nutrient in them. Usually you think about dandelion greens as weeds, which they are. You don't necessarily want to pick dandelion greens from just anywhere in the yard because you don't know where the water source is coming from. So just keep that in mind. But these are quite bitter. They're great to support the liver. And we know the liver is a key player in our energy production. And because of all of its duties from blood sugar metabolism, as well as just helping us detoxify. All right, so I've got a really thriving rosemary bush over here, more tomatoes. This is going to be moringa. If you've ever heard of moringa, this guy right here, he has been slow growing, but it will end up being this huge tree. And I only have 2 of them in the garden. There's another one on the other side. But this little plant right here will be as tall as the okra, but much bushier, and will pretty much take over. But the leaves themselves are great for a tea, and they're a very, very good source of bioavailable vitamin C.
We can say that plant is a slow-growing plant.
That plant is a slow-growing plant?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It is a slow-growing plant. All right, more tomatoes. And one hack that one of my friends who is a farmer taught me was to plant onions as a natural a natural pest preventer around the garden. So kind of tucked into all of the tomatoes are onions. And also garlic chives will do the trick too. So I've never had, knock on wood, never had any trouble with pests on my tomatoes because I plant a lot of onions around the garden. And you can see there's some flowers coming up on some of the tomatoes, a really big basil plant coming up, as well as garlic chives.
And
so,
if you eat these, it's spicy. And if you try to
speak up.
I am.
Okay.
And if you try to eat it, it's spicy, and you spit it out, your spit is green.
That's right. Okay, so
It's not cooked.
the purpose of this very long-winded garden tour was to say, we forgot the fig trees, a couple fig trees as well, was to say that this whole message of health is all-encompassing. So if you think that you have exhausted all avenues of health, in fact, I met with someone the other day and they said, I'm literally doing everything. There's always things we can add in. There's always intercepts that we can build into our world that help to support our bodies and help to support our health. And it's the little things, the little habits that change our internal milieu that affects how the big things that we think we're doing really has an impact on us. So things that we may not expect that are making a difference in our world, that are really impacting, whether it's weight loss resistance, brain fog, constipation, all of the above, inefficient digestion, bloating after meals, frustration, a general feeling of anxiety, overwhelm, not being able to focus, all this collection of goodies that we get around our age 40. There's lots of little hacks that we can do to support our health before we leap into a lot of extensive lab work or etc. The goal is prevention, and the goal is developing a habit or habit loop, lifestyle hacks that we can maintain throughout our busyness of this season of life when we have little ones in abundance and lots of long to-do lists each and every day, and constantly responding to stressors, unpredictable as they are in motherhood. So that's the whole point of sharing a garden. You don't have to have a huge garden for it to make a difference. You can have a collection of containers that you go to that fulfill that angle of supporting our health. So, girls, so I hope this was supportive of you and you kind of get this jive. The whole messaging in terms of functional lab testing and how we then integrate that component is our tracking piece. Those are our objective markers. Well, we can track our subjective markers of how we're feeling, how we're functioning. But I'll tell you, the worst marker that we can use in terms of tracking health and progress is the scale. It is the worst marker because internally we're going to have changes much sooner than we're going to see outward appearance, and our body composition will shift over time as our body feels safe, as our body feels nourished, as our internal stress load goes down. All of that will change as we go. So that's not typically the messaging that we hear on social media, but it's the truth. So much more to come. I hope you enjoyed this little garden tour, and I'll have more info once the girls and I form our YouTube page and we keep sharing this messaging along the way. Okay. All right. Have a great rest of your Sunday. Bye-bye.
He's not interested in the body.